Hi Lenormand readers, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. Let's do another pick a card reading. For this one, I want to keep it open-ended and ask what will happen. So I suggest you focus on a specific situation in your life. It can be in any area of your life. But I do think it's good to focus on a specific issue so that you can answer this question with more precision. And of course, if you just want to keep it completely open-ended, sort of like what is going to happen down the line, just in a general way, you can do that too. So as you can see, I've got 4 stones here. Today, I am attracted to some light colored stones. This is the rose quartz. This is the serpentine. And this is Opalite, and this is the Angelite. So some very light colors here that I'm attracted to right now for you for this pick a card. By all means, as always, do pause the video if you want to tune into the stone you want to resonate with for the reading, and you'll find the timestamps in the description box. So with this said, let's focus on what will happen, whether it's open-ended on a specific situation, and I will see you in your reading. Angelite group, here we are with your cards and your lovely stone, and let us focus on what will happen for you. So you're either focusing on a specific situation or issue, or you're looking at this a bit more generally to see what might be coming through for you. So let's go right ahead and shuffle your cards a little bit more. I always shuffle between readings, but just to set the intention. And let's deal out your 3x5. Let's go for a 3x5. Okay, here we are with your 3x5. And I have to say that the one thing that really jumps out to me right now is this column here. This is about brainstorming and finding solutions. So it's really also important that the column is on the far right of the 3x5, because the farther to the right we are, the closer we are to the outcomes and sort of the later parts of the story as it unfolds from left to right. So this is a really bright column to see in your cards, and it is a very clear combination, also a very specific meaning for the combination, the idea of brainstorming a solution and finding the solution. Both the key and the sun are brilliant cards of light. They shine very strongly, and this is really about breakthroughs, insight, understanding, enlightenment, and awareness. So it is a very beautiful message right from the get-go in your 3x5 that you are going to find a solution, or there is going to be a solution, there's going to be a breakthrough, there's going to be understanding and insight. Very, very beautiful. Now, before we read the individual lines, I like to look a little bit at the broader picture, but I have to say that this line immediately stood out. That's why I focused on it. But let's go back to the corner cards. We've got the anchor and sun, and this is a very clear message that points to the idea of sticking with it, being patient with it, and really keeping on so that you can achieve the very positive result. And I have to say that each of the anchor and sun are individually strong and positive, and they point to a lot of success. So you can look forward to some major achievement. In the other set of corner cards, we have the tree and clouds. And although the tree is a very strong, solid card, the clouds can be a bit shaky. But again, in the context of this column and in the context of what I feel is going to be the main message of your reading, this is about finding solutions. So you want to hang in there. You want to be patient. You want to stick with it until you find a solution. The tree is not a movement card. It's a bit like the anchor and the bear and also the mountain that is not in this spread. They point to solid cards that don't really move. So it's the idea of sticking with it until you see it through. So the tree and clouds very much encourages you to spend the time thinking about this and to focus on the solution and really to commit to it until you see it through. And we saw here that you will see it through. So this is a very, very beautiful message. Now, in the center of your 3x5, we have the fish, and the fish is a money card. It's about prosperity and income. And I have to say that because of the fox and the lily, both of them being work cards, on top of the fish, this is very much about work and career and your professional success in general. So the fish really brings into the picture this idea of money, income, and practical matters. So you are very much focused on finding financial solutions, on finding financial success, on making any practical or material kind of matter, make it happen, make it successful, and you will. I think the work element is going to come through very strongly through this line and through these two cards, but let's get to it in just a second. So with this said, let's turn to the individual rows and the longer combinations. In the top row, we have the anchor, ship, bear, coffin, and clouds. Now, this is a very interesting line. Clearly, there's an ending, and what really it comes to my attention is this ship that comes on the other side of the anchor. So it's like you're going to pick up and leave and end something, bring something to a head. The bear is an important card. It points to anything generally powerful and strong and influential. But with the coffin and clouds, there can be a significant ending that you're in for. This can mean that you bring it to a head, you bring it to conclusion. And the reason I say that is because the ship comes after the anchor, so it's like you make it a point to, move forward until you see this through. So in the context of sticking with it until you find a solution, you have to keep moving forward until the end. Stick with it until you see it through. Keep going, keep at it until you bring this to conclusion, and you will bring it to a very, very successful conclusion. So that's what I feel is coming through these cards. We could get back to them with more insight from the other cards. Let's keep on moving. We've got the man, fox, fish, lily, and key. Well, I have to say that this is a pretty straightforward line, straightforward cards suggesting career success. You could be in for a new job that brings more money, or maybe your job where you are, there are changes or positive changes or opportunities within it that bring you more money and more success in your career. The man next to the fox can point to someone on the job or someone you work with, whether you have a job or a business or whatever it is whatever way you operate in your work life. And this man seems to bring some positive solutions. You could be in for an important chapter moving forward. The lily and key can mean a very important career that opens up for you, or perhaps you're already on that path and you bring wonderful solutions. I think you're going to make more money. I think you can get more opportunity. I think you could really line yourself up for success in your career. So this is a pretty potent line, and also very clear about the theme that it's about. Now in the bottom row, we also have some beautiful cards. We have two wish fulfillment cards, the sun and the star, and both of them bring success and all around wish fulfillment. The tree can mean that it takes a bit of time, and the cross and bird can also mean that there needs to be some negotiation, but really the conclusion is very, very positive. And I feel there's a really good parallel with what we see in the column here with the clouds specifically. I feel the clouds matches the energy of the cross and bird, where there's a bit of back and forth, give and take, some negotiation to come to the right conclusion, as we see with the clouds and key. The cross and bird can mean an important conversation. Without question, that would be with this man here. And so you might want to push for your advantages, negotiate, a better situation for yourself. It can be any number of possibilities about what this conversation is about. But definitely, I think it results in very positive outcomes, and you get what you want, and you unlock this potential that we see with the key. So a very, very bright set of cards here. It's just that the tree will ask you to be a bit more patient, and also make sure you give time to this conversation, the negotiation, or this brainstorming thing, this phase where the solution is being formed. Let's move on to the columns. We've got the anchor, man, tree. Now this, I feel, is a really positive line despite the fox. The fox and man. The fox with any person card can suggest someone who's a bit trickier, like someone who is self-interested, maybe a bit selfish, but I think that the overall energy is not really bringing out the more negative aspects of the fox. Instead, it's it's a negotiation, yes, but also it's about work and being practical and, you know, strategizing well. We've got the Fox and Key. This is really about planning, strategy, and finding these solutions, all in alignment with what we saw in this column. So the Anchor and Tree are both supportive cards. This is someone whom you can trust, at least to some extent, you can rely on, and there is positive developments here. The Ship, Fox, and Star is a wonderful project that materializes for you. It can also point to success, achievement, really achieving some important milestones and moving forward in a very positive way. So I would say also with the Fox, remain practical and focused on the goal. No distractions, really being solution oriented. And the Star being an all-around wish fulfillment card, you are going to achieve and find the right solution. A trip is possible, but I have to say that I'm not really feeling the travel element so much. I really think it's more about work, business, solutions, achieving goals, being practical, and all of that. I think that's the main energy coming through. Now, the Bear, Fish, and Cross is really good for money. The Bear and Fish is the combination of wealth, and with the Cross, it can mean that you're meant to make more money and that you're in for more money. The Cross can have a challenging side. It can mean that you need to make some sacrifices or some important choices, but this is definitely the time for it. So you want to focus on the financial aspect of things. You want to make sure that you are on a strong and solid footing. And also you want to embrace the idea of making more money or pursuing more money. And I think this is something that you're going to achieve in this next phase in this reading. Now, the Coffin, Lily, and Bird is probably the more challenging line of your spread, and it's not all that challenging. The Coffin and Lily can point to the end of a phase, and the Bird is, again, a conversation, or it can be a shorter phase. It can suggest that this phase is a bit short. So the idea here that I'm seeing is that, yes, you have to negotiate because the Bird is that card of conversation and discussion, but also that you might need to be patient for things to be worked out. And I would also say that it's important not to stress out, not to cause anxiety. Sometimes maybe distancing yourself from the problem that you're looking to solve is a good approach. It can also mean a broader ending in your life because the Lily is the card of life and life milestones and things like that. And so with the Coffin, it can bring a closure. And I think this works really well with achieving and reaching and landing on the solution that we're talking about. So it sounds like there's just a bit of a phase here where there is like a problem-solving phase, the brainstorming phase. And this is the time when, there's negotiations and, things are being worked out until the solution lands. And then it does land. So like we read from the get-go, the column here, the clouds, key, and sun is a solution that comes through. It's a breakthrough. It's really figuring things out. So it's really powerful and it's very clear in the message. So far, there are so many powerful, beautiful, strong messages coming for you. You are in for solutions. You're going to find the solution. You're probably going to make more money. You're probably going to get a really good opportunity. And there seems to be a person involved in this. The key is really to be solution oriented, focus on the bottom line, stick with it until you see yourself through, and you will. So with this said, we can focus a little bit more on the diagonals and the portraits. They give more insight, they bring more details. The central three cards here, the Fox, Fish, and Lily, are very much career, money related cards, and they could be really focusing the theme for you. Although you might have asked about a relationship, or you might have asked about something else, but still they bring practical outcomes, successful outcomes. There is a sense of abundance to some extent, but also a commitment to solutions, a commitment to long-term stability and focus. The idea of routine and discipline are certainly coming through. So make sure, again, like we saw with the anchor and sun, tree and clouds, stick with it until you find a solution, and you will. And we can also read the diagonals. There are a few that come together and bring more details into the 3x5. Starting with this big one here, we've got the anchor, fox, cross, lily, and clouds. So this too is a bit of a challenging energy, mainly because of the clouds with the lily and also the fox. I think, again, this is this period of brainstorming, this period of figuring things out. And the fox cross into lily and clouds is really the challenging aspect. It's not too challenging, but it does, focus on this phase where you're figuring things out. It's really the anchor in this line, but also as your very first card, that is all about sticking with it and being really focused on this until you see it through. So even if there are issues, or it looks like you're not finding the solution, or things are not clarifying, there is a strong message of sticking with it because it will come through. And the tree, fox, bear, lily, and sun is a beautiful combination for any number of possibilities. First, generally, it points to positive conclusions. So another confirmation that you stick with it until you land on the solution, because you will. It's also a very positive line for empowerment, career growth, job growth, promotions, and a lot of beautiful messages in terms of stepping up and achieving your goals. Growth and promotion and evolution come through really strongly in this diagonal pair, more so than in other lines in your 3x5. So this is a helpful and additional insight. We also have the man, ship, fish, bird, and key. Again, I'm seeing this helpful person who comes in to bring you this opportunity. I think you're definitely going to embrace it, and you're in for positive negotiations financially and in other ways. And the man, star, fish, coffin, and key is a similar message of bringing success and prosperity. But the coffin can mean a time of patience and also closing things off, locking it down, and getting that closure through. So really coming to the positive conclusion. So overall, Angelite group, this is a very beautiful message of success, achievement, prosperity, empowerment, job success, income. There is a strong focus on practical matters and work, but you could have focused for this question on another issue. So let's consider a few options here. Suppose you were asking about relationships. In this sense, I feel things are really well worked out. Can there be a separation in a relationship? Yes, but I feel that the stronger message is agreeing on something, and maybe you agree to disagree and you accept that this closes off the issue. But there aren't many negative cards. There's just two of them, and everything else is so strong and bright. So I really don't feel that any negative messages overpower anything in here. What is very powerful is this solution-oriented thinking that brings solution, clarity, understanding, agreement, and support. So even in relationships, I'm seeing a positive conclusion to any issue that you could be going through. I would also say that when it comes to people in a more general way, I think it's a good time to possibly network, to get people support, to focus on people who are helpful, and possibly maybe move on from situations that aren't. So there can be a bit of a, letting go of what's unhelpful here, because you need to focus on the solution. Very much invites you to be positive and optimistic, focused and disciplined until the end. So whereas many readings would point to change and moving on and making changes, what we're seeing in this spread is not really a change, but it's sticking with it until the end, until you see it through, because you're in for very positive conclusions. So overall, Angelite group, I think this is a wonderful spread, wonderful reading. You're in for success, resolution, and understanding across the board, or across the area that you're focusing on. Just stick with it until you see it through. Don't give up on this. Just be disciplined and keep moving forward, and you're going to get to the bottom of it in a very, very positive way. Welcome new money, welcome promotion, welcome growth in any way in your life, and, make the best of it and learn the lessons and move on into this wonderful solution. So let me know how you like this reading. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and comments. Very best of luck with these wonderful things coming through. Let me know how it goes. And until we meet again, as always, thank you so much for tuning in and take very good care of yourself. Okay, Opalite group, I've got your lovely stone here on the side, and I've got the Titania's Fortune Cards deck here. My deck is always shuffled between readings, but I like to shuffle it a little bit just to focus the intention for this important question of what will happen in this situation or just in general. I'm going to do a large diamond for this one, Opalite, and let's see what we get for you. Okay, Opalite group, here is your large diamond, and I think you are going to let this go, or you're going to have to wait. So what will happen is probably a period of inactivity and not much happening, but there is also a lot of other active cards. And the reason I'm saying that there could be a phase of not much happening is really because of the coffin. And it's not the central card, but I really feel that it guides the central card. Also, the coffin is at the center of this small cross. It's also a mini diamond, and the one on this side is the futuremost cross, and so it's associated with possibly outcomes. So I feel the coffin has a lot of weight in this diamond, and I feel that its main message, especially because of the clouds and the fox, a bit of a tricky card here, suggests that there isn't much that's going to happen, and that you're going to be best to wait it out. Now, before I get into the details of this line, which I think is pretty important, I also want to get an overview of the other cards. You have some very lucky cards in this diamond. We have the clover and the star. We also have news cards. We have the book and letter, and we have the writer. And it may be that you do receive news. But again, because of this area here, I think you don't act on it just yet. We've got the writer, we've got the dog. The dog is a good friend normally, someone supportive, could be the messenger. And another indication is the heart, which would be associated with the friendship element here, and the mountain, which can be associated with a bit of a travel aspect because of the writer. So these are some pretty positive cards because of these two mainly, and they're pretty strongly positive. So it's not just like a nice card, it's a very strong wish. Each of them is a very strong wish fulfillment card. So I think in addition to this waiting phase that we're seeing, another key theme for you, Opalite, is the book and the letter and the news element. So there is news coming, there is a messenger. Can be information, can be email, it depends on your specifics. But I think that's definitely coming. And I do think it could answer a wish, or it is offering some kind of advantage, but very clear to me from this area that you have to wait it out. Okay, so these are my general feelings from this diamond. Let's read the details now through the rows, the columns, and all of the other amazing connections that we can draw in a diamond. Now the clover, mountain, and then the clouds, coffin, fox. So these two lines, they're the longest lines of a diamond, and they're pretty, they're pretty significant. They carry the weight of the meaning or the storylines. So when I see this triplet here in the center, I feel there is a delay. I feel there is something that is put on hold. There can be issues that need to be worked out first. The clouds is a card of thinking and the mind. It's very psychological in nature, but it also points to tensions. Now, I feel that the psychological element is not so strongly salient in here. I feel it's more about complications, issues, or that things are in the way. And both the mountain and the coffin can represent obstacles. So it's very clear to me, Opalite group, that from this triplet, we are seeing a delay, things put on hold, or things need to be worked out before they can move forward. It's possible that this has to do with a place abroad, but to be honest with you, I'm not so sure that would be the case, and I'm not so sure how much it adds relevance to this waiting time that is happening anyway. Possible. And, that's more relevant with the writer in terms of travel. But here's what. The clover is a very lucky card, and the fox is a card of, yes, it's tricky. Yes, it points to someone who could be deceptive. But I think with the heart nearby, well, the star more relevant to what I'm about to say, and the clover, I feel they bring out advantage in the fox. And in this sense, there is that strong indication of being watchful, alert, patient, calculating. So what does that mean in terms of this central row here? Well, I feel that there's a good reason why things are on hold, and I don't think you should try to do anything about it. So what will happen is that things are going to be on hold. There's going to be some issues that need to be worked out, but here's what I think, maybe so much the better, and don't do anything about it. Let it work itself out. In the meantime, you sort of watch, observe. Now, the fox can be associated with work because it's the card of employment. And the tower can be associated with corporations, and the dog can be associated with employees. So there's a few cards in your diamond that can bring out this theme of work. Now, if work is something you're focusing on, or perhaps significant for you in your life that you feel would be relevant in this reading, then I feel it's very possible, from looking not just at this row and this area here, but really just in general, all the cards in your diamond, I feel you could be leaving a job and getting a new one because you get the one that you want. You see, when we look at this diamond here, the mini diamond, at the bottom, we have the star and we have the news cards. And there is like a sudden element here that sort of probably rocks your boat, and maybe a sharp decision that you need to make. And maybe it has to do with an offer or an opportunity that suddenly comes that you're not ready for, but that you're going to take. So it can be, in this sense, complicated or tricky to end your current work, or maybe it's an involvement in a broader sense and take up this new opportunity. So I have to say that the fox, along with these other cards, can bring out this idea or this interpretation of the diamond. Let's continue with the other main storyline, the column. We've got the dog, tower, cloud, scythe, and letter. Now, here is also a triplet right in the center of this line that can bring a bit of complications. And it's not only because of the clouds, but it's also because of the scythe. Now, the scythe can be challenging, but with the clouds, I feel it helps you make a sharp decision. So the clouds can be a really wobbly kind of card where you're hesitating, you're thinking, maybe you're overthinking, you're stressing about something. It's psychological in that sense. And the scythe here comes to help you break through the confusion, break through the wobbliness and the hesitancy, and to just do something about this. And when we see it with the letter, it might be a decision, or it can be that you get this sudden opportunity, and this rocks your boat. Now, the dog and tower at the top here can refer to someone who comes from the past to bring you this news, this letter, or this information. It can refer to you in reference to the job, where here, the clouds and scythe, you might decide to make a break, make an ending, and move on to a new job. And it can be some news that is overall shocking, and it can be what also puts things on hold. So it can be part of those complications that we suggested through the clouds in the central row. But there is that person card that comes through here. Now, another way we can look at the diamond now that we've added more cards, Opalite, is in terms of relationships. So when I see the heart and dog, it almost always means to me a friendship as opposed to a love relationship. And I feel that because of the challenging inner cross here with the coffin and scythe that are, by the way, at a diagonal, and things ending or being put on hold, plus there is this scythe and tower that can mean a release from the past. Opalite group, this can be the end of a relationship or the end of hopes that this can go somewhere. So the clouds with the heart in this diagonal, it can mean love is unrequited. It can mean that there isn't much, in terms of love. And we see this very clearly in this small diamond here. And the fox in this case is a disappointment, but really the star can help you heal and move on. So I have to say, Opalite group, that when it comes to relationships, this can mean an ending. Okay, let's keep building this diamond and see what more possibilities come in the picture for you. We've got this inner portrait here, and what we can read is the box and the diagonals. So the rider, tower, and heart can mean some kind of relationship from the past or a long-standing one, but it can also mean news and hearing from someone after a time apart. And the bottom row, book, scythe, and star, of course with the influence of the letter, is news, so breakthrough. So the silence breaks, and it's very likely that you hear from someone. The rider, mountain, and book can mean that they've been away or apart, and the heart, coffin, and star suggests an ending. Now, let's put all of this together. What could it suggest? And notice that in these portrait cards, we have the element of a relationship that comes through a bit more because of the heart. So I feel that someone might have been out of touch. It's possible that they get back in touch, but that the news you hear is not so good. It's not so great. It does lead to some kind of ending. It does lead to some kind of disappointment. There is the need to release. And also you might feel like, well, it's probably not going to really go anywhere. So that's in terms of relationships. Now, in terms of other possibilities, like we suggested with work, you could get an offer. It might imply some kind of move, or maybe you communicate with someone in a different place, or perhaps you've been waiting for it, it's been sort of on hold, and it comes through and it answers your wish thanks to the star, and you decide to make a move. So notice that if we are reading this for relationships versus reading it for work, in one interpretation it's positive, and in another interpretation it's not so great. It's an ending, unless of course you welcome that ending, and then that's great, and that's a great attitude, and it can happen, of course. Now the two diagonals, we've got the rider, clouds, and star, which is a little bit challenging because of the clouds, but it's really suggesting that there may be a bit of a bumpy road ahead. And what I'm thinking is this transition. So if you're moving from one place to another, work to another, bringing one chapter to an end and moving to a new one, closing it off, it's just this transition can feel a bit bumpy. In terms of love, I think this is where you are looking at healing and changing a little bit your thinking, changing your hopes. The clouds might sort of, cover a little bit the star in the same way that it might cover over a sun. It might metaphorically as well with the star. This idea that it dampens your hopes. It dampens what you thought was meant to be. And the book, Clouds and Heart, is really the diagonal that brings out the idea of love the most, because sometimes the heart and book can suggest unrevealed feelings. But I have to say, Opalite, because of the clouds next to the heart, it can mean that it's unrequited, or that there isn't really like a strong inclination. There isn't like a decision around wanting the relationship. It's more like hesitating about it and not really sure. And so that is not so great for the relationship. Now, in terms of work, again, we have a different energy altogether. The book in this case is really about the offer, and with the clouds and heart, it does answer what you want, just like it does with the star. But again, we see that there's like a bumpy road, and with the clouds, it might be this idea of when you make a move, when you make a change. And this works also with what we saw in this diamond here, where we suggested that, you know, you get the news, you get an offer, but you don't really act on it just yet. Things are sort of frozen. But again, the other interpretation is that you end your job and move to another one. So this is capturing the ending here. So there's quite a few possibilities for you, Opalite group, in this interesting diamond. But I think that a key message across any area you might be considering for the question is that you need to first make a sharp decision. And you are going to need to respond to some news that comes through or an offer. But also that you have to wait out the transition or something that is on hold and that needs to be worked out before you can move on. Still, I do think that an ending and some kind of, you know, something that closes is clearly in your cards, but it does come in the wake of an opportunity. And keep in mind your beautiful clover and star. So even if there are some complications, the overall picture is a happy one that comes with a positive change and a positive opportunity. And when it comes to relationships, I feel that you're going to discover that this is not really a love relationship or what you want, and you're sort of going to let it go and move on from it. And I think you want to, you know, when you make this discovery. And the fox here, you know, is that half-hearted kind of person, which we're going to see clearly in the sides of the diagonal. So you're going to feel that this is not fitting, and you're going to want to pick up and go in a different direction, which is perfectly fine, which is important to realize so that you know where you're heading. So with this said, let's talk about the size of the diamond, and we can wrap up the diamond with this as well. We have the dog, heart, and fox. Now, this is a very clear line, like we just touched on this, about someone being half-hearted. If it weren't for the fox, this would have been a nice combination. We have the clover and the star, but the fox sort of throws this off, and on top of that, we have this mini diamond here, which has these two important cards with the fox, and that really change what this is about. So again, you discover that this person is half-hearted, or perhaps you are not feeling it, you know, like 100%. Maybe you're sort of half-hearted about this. And the clover, book, letter, star, and fox is very, very positive news. This is definitely a line that answers a wish. And this is where, you know, the clover and star really have their impact on your diamond, because they are on either side of the news card. So we have a very clear confirmation that this news, this information, or this opportunity offer that comes your way is very much what you want. The fox is really the card in the outer diamond that is sort of, you know, it's kind of funny, you know, it sort of throws things off a little bit. But I think, like we said at the outset, that it comes to your advantage, and it offers you that sense of being aware and alert and patient for the right time to make the move. So to backtrack a little bit, Opalite, I think another key message that is coming for you is that you need to stop and think before you act. You have an opportunity that comes your way, it answers a wish, it's what you want, or it's information that is insightful to you that helps you make a decision. But you have to think first before you make a move. And when you make a move, has to be really well calculated. So the fox really helps you strategize a transition, an ending, or an action that you take in response to this wonderful wish sort of come true through this beautiful news. So again, it's like my feeling that maybe it's just working out the details or the transition or the actual few steps, but the overall picture is very positive because you have this blessing that comes your way. Now let's wrap up with maybe like look a little bit at how we parse these 4 diamonds. And we also have the inner one. So let's maybe start with that. So if we just focus on, the inner diamond here with the clouds, when we look at the tower and mountain and the coffin and scythe, it really points to the deep past and a past chapter. You could be thinking about this now. It could be something that rises to the surface, and it's something that comes to a close or that you're able to close off at this point because you have this wonderful news that comes through. I would also say that I'm feeling like a subconscious energy coming through this inner diamond. And so I'm wondering, Opalite, if you need to work out maybe some deeper seated patterns, thoughts, or, something that could be bubbling up at this time. Maybe there are some outside stimuli or something that triggers this and brings it to the surface, and you're like, I need to make a deep change now, and it comes in response to this wonderful news. So it can be that as well. There can be a deeper layer that you're working through. We do have the heart, and we did say that the clouds is a bit of a psychological card, so consider that. Otherwise, the idea of an ending is very, very clear through this diamond, and with the clouds, it can be rocking your boat a little bit. Maybe you're nervous about the ending, or you're thinking about how to make it happen. It's really clearly coming through at a central diamond. Now, in the earlier parts of your reading, which are captured by the mountain, I'm feeling this thing on freeze, on hold. The mountain is a cold, rigid card that can often be associated with obstacles. And with the Rider and book, it's very clear to me that something is closed off. The news is closed off, and you're wondering when will it come, or it's something you've been waiting for a while. Again, the lovely clover here suggests that you're right to be patient and you're right not to be pushy. Just let it come on its own time. There is also the possibility that you travel. Maybe you explore a place that you haven't been to, and if you have that opportunity, I would say these are supportive cards. Now the futuremost, like we've focused on this mini diamond a little bit because I felt that the coffin really carries a lot of weight in this diamond, and it really carries this a strong idea, a strong message for you, the idea of an ending. In relationships, the heart and star really encourages you to put this to rest. Opalite group, let it go. This is not the right thing for you. And when we look at the fox one in the central row, it can mean the end of a job. But regardless of what area you're focused on, the idea of an ending is welcome. And also there is a strong sense of waiting for the right time for the next action, and also staying alert, and strategizing the closure and the next moves. And this can be an answer to a wish like we saw in here with the clover. Now looking at the top diamond here, we've got the tower and the dog and the rider and heart. I really feel this points to someone from the past. So this message, this news comes from someone, possibly someone you've known for a while, someone from the past. It can mean someone in this organization or this, this authority kind of place. I think it's more like a business, but it can mean, someone who's maybe more specialized and has some level of authority. And with the clouds, it's a bit like what we saw in the mountain one, where there are some issues or it's taking time. But also, I think because of what happens in the rest of the line here, the rest of the central column, it might come as a surprise. And it might rock your boat, to hear from this person. Maybe they disappeared for a while, which works well with what we saw in the mountain. And the bottom one is very strongly associated with the letter and book and this news element. The writer is also strong, but having these two cards together is quite telling. And it's a special combination also in my dictionary that points to some very important news that can happen very soon. On top of that, we have the scythe and Again, I feel there is this swift, quick, unexpected news that comes through. Maybe it's this person who's like a blast from the past. They come back into the picture and it's like, oh my, and you're wondering, what is going on or what had happened to them, and all of these possibilities. But what's really nice about the bottom one, just like here, is that you have the star. And the star is a wish fulfillment card, and very clearly suggests some very good news and news that answers a wish. And remember this very important side, very beautiful side. So overall, Opalite group, I feel that there's a lot that could happen down the line or soon, depending on what you're after. The key is really to think things through and not to rush into an action, even though you might feel like you need to, because the news comes swiftly or the decision is made swiftly. But I think as the steps unfold, you need to be more calculating and more careful. Relationships will come to an end, new jobs could come through, and possibly a trip is possible. So these are all things that can happen. I also want to add, Opalite group, that the different areas are not mutually exclusive. So if you've kept it open-ended, all of these possibilities might apply, or some of them might apply simultaneously for you. But really the key is to bring things to a closure, to end something, to think through the next steps, not to be rash moving forward, and to think about this news that comes through. And remember that there is a lot of blessing kind of energy in your cards as well. So wish fulfillment or answering hopes comes through. Okay, I think I'm good to close. Opalite group, this was quite a big reading. This is a great spread. Let me know your thoughts about this. I'm really looking forward to them. Very best of luck with this layered transition that's happening for you. Let me know where it's playing out, how it's playing out. I'm looking forward to learning that from you. So until we meet again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in our next reading. Okay, Rose Quartz group, here we are with the deck and your beautiful stone. Let's go ahead and deal out your cards into a diamond and find out what will happen. So maybe you are focusing on something specific, or perhaps you have a more general outlook on this question. Let's go right ahead and deal out your lovely cards. Okay, Rose Quartz group, I have to say that I have an immediate feeling of what this is about, and I think you will be invited to something. You will get an offer, you will get an invitation, and there is going to be forward movement and positive changes, possibly travels. I'm seeing a lot of travel and movement cards. Of course, it starts with the rider that is right in the middle of your diamond. And we also have the road, the ship, and the mountain. And so there can mean that there is movement, travel, visits, exploring options, and things like that. So right from the get-go, I feel that you could be in for a lot of activity. It can be really exciting. And there is also a social element. So we have the dog at the far right of your diamond here, and we have the man at the bottom as well. And the rider himself or herself can be a messenger. It's usually associated with a person. Of course, there's a person on the horse here, so it's associated with a messenger. Most cards represent the rider as a male, but it doesn't mean that it has to be a male. It can be a female as well. And there is the ring on top of that. That too is a relationship card. And we have the garden. The garden is also a social card because it's associated with community, people, and like the broader society. So networks, friends, people, connections are very much a theme in your diamond. So what will happen, the details of that, is in the context of a social kind of situation or with some people. The rider is also a proactive card. So it could be encouraging you to go for it, to take initiative. Maybe you're the one who needs to reach out to people. Maybe you need to ask questions and get in touch and mix and mingle and things like that. It's a very active energy, what I'm seeing for you here in the diamond. And I want to say that it also looks really positive. Now, a lot of cards are neutral. And we have the clouds and the coffin that can be challenging, but we also have some positive cards. We have the key, which is a very successful card, and we have the ship, which is typically associated with things coming in, forward movement, opportunities, and the tree, which is a slower card, but it's also about health and strength and a lot of wisdom and that sense of groundedness. So a lot of the cards are neutral, but I feel that the overall energy is positive. And on top of that, the rider has that strong momentum, a lot of enthusiasm. So an active diamond for you. Now let's get into the lines and keep building this diamond. Starting with the central row here, I feel this is a clear message of an invitation. The book and rider suggests that there's a revelation, news, message coming through, and the key suggests opening the book. Sometimes the book is closed, but with the key and rider on either side, there is a revelation. It's like there's an opening, a message coming through. Now the tree is a slower card, and it can mean that you don't want to maybe respond to this just yet. But with the dog, it can mean that there is an invitation to spend time with this person, to explore a certain avenue. I'm seeing there is an invitation and a welcoming of, some kind of collaboration that can grow into something really nice. And even though they're not close to each other directly, the key and tree can mean achieving a very important goal. So you could be at the beginning or in the early stages of developing into something that proves fruitful over the long term. Maybe you're working on a friendship or a relationship here. And certainly with the tree and dog in the context of a relationship, it's a good idea to take things slowly and to allow things to unfold. Now, I have to say that the romantic aspect can be emphasized here because we have the ring in the cards. But in and of itself, the dog is typically about peers and friendships. And with the rider and tree, I think there is a really positive prospect or an offer that develops into something nice and peaceful, in the very least something worth exploring. Now, is this a romantic spread? It can be, it depends on the issue that you focused on, but in general, broadly speaking, the relationship aspect is supportive and in focus. Now, for the column here, the main column, we have the road, the garden, and the rider, coffin, and man. Now, this can mean someone leaves, because the coffin and man are next to each other. And when we look at this, the mini diamond here, or a cross if you like, we see that someone leaves and is away. There is an absence here, and maybe it is what is happening next, but maybe also this person comes back into play, or perhaps they have to go away for some time. The road, it can also suggest leaving because it's associated with travel. So when we look at these cards and when we look at how the coffin is in the middle of these travel elements here, it can mean that this man goes away, and it can mean that there is a time of absence for a while, and maybe there's a good reason for that. Certainly with something like the tree, it's a good idea to be patient and to let it go, let it unfold. And the coffin as well. So I think the central column here is very clear about someone leaving or an absence, at least for some time. Now, when we look at the portrait cards here, it tops with the ring, and the ring is a relationship card, and we have the ring, rider, and ship. This is another very clear message of a proposal or an invitation. There is certainly a direction that opens up. It can be really exciting for relationships. The mountain, rider, and clouds is trickier because the clouds after the rider can mean that the forward path is a bit muddied, and the mountain can also bring obstacles. So I don't think it's it's challenging as such. The clouds are not particularly challenging. They're just a bit complicated and cause some confusion. But I think that this can be about where is a relationship heading, or where is this connection or involvement heading if you're not focused on a friendship or a specific person. Well, I think that the answer is to allow things to cool, to unfold slowly, and to let them unfold on their own time and at their own pace. And I think the focus is on the friendship because the dog is on the right-hand side of the diamond. And even if this isn't romantic, you want to allow the relationship to deepen if it's going to deepen on its own time. And there may be a time when you are away from each other, when you need space, so to speak. That too is suggested. In the meantime, you pursue your options and you pursue your goals. We can also read the frame around the riders. So we've got the ring, book, and mountain. This too is very clearly a proposal in the most literal sense. The ring and book is the combination of a proposal, classically of marriage, but of course it doesn't have to be about that. And the mountain can mean that things are on hold, or that it's happening in a place abroad, a different location. That too is possible. The book and mountain together can suggest that there's a pause or something that freezes for a while. So again, you get an invitation, you get a proposal, but then you allow this to unfold slowly. It can be very good for a relationship, but again, because of the mountain, there can be a bit of a break, a pause on things. In this column, we have the clouds, tree, and ship. It's a bit like this diagonal, and as we're going to see here, the clouds can muddy the waters a little bit. The tree is a pretty stable and strong card, and the ship is positive on the other side of the tree. So I feel that there's like a temporary transition or situation where things are not so clear, or maybe you're waiting for the right time. I think timing is going to be really important for you. We have speedy cards, slow cards, and something like the clouds. And we have all of these path and travel cards. So there is like a crossing, a crossing physically, a crossing in time. And I think this is something that's going to come into the picture and will be part of what will happen in a significant way. In the top row here, we've got the ring, garden, and clouds. This very much has to do with your relationships, your connections, possibly your community in a broader sense. But with the clouds here, you want to be maybe a bit concerned about something that's going on in there. Maybe there are some differences that come through, and maybe that could be part of why you need to allow things to work themselves out a little bit. And then the mountain, coffin, and ship is clearly about a pause or a situation that's on hold before it moves forward again. So progress is happening, Rose Quartz. There is forward movement. There are invitations, proposals, exciting opportunities coming your way. But I feel that you really need to take it slow. So what you need to do is to wait and allow for things to unfold better. It's best to be patient and to see how things are evolving instead of acting too quickly on things. And it's also something that could be happening to you where you have to sort of wait things out and see how they're going to evolve before you move forward. This can sort of get in the way a little bit about how you move forward or what you actually do next, but there's a good reason for that. So you don't want to rush. You want to keep moving forward, but you don't want to rush. So these are some general indications for your diamond. And again, it depends on what situation you focused on. When we're looking at a personal relationship, like a love relationship, I think the message is very clear that it may be best to sort of, allow for some space in the relationship, maybe take a step back and focus more on the friendship for the time being, and then see where it goes from there. But over the next phase, I think the closeness might be best put on hold and sort of stepping back a little bit to, create a better foundation with the friendship or explore what's going on there a bit better. When it comes to the job, for example, if you were after, your question about work, business, or whatever it is you do as your career, your activity, then I think there are positive changes, positive prospects, but there can be a time when things are on hold for a bit. Maybe you want to explore what direction this is heading into. Maybe you first want to grow a bit more of a customer base before you launch a product. There is like a formation kind of phase that we're seeing in these cards. And even though you're still building and you're still working towards your goals, it's a good idea to take it a bit slowly to see how things are shaping up as you go. I have to also say that travel is possible. Maybe it's a good idea to take some time out from certain people and maybe spend time with other people. Maybe it's about exploring your social circles, looking at different connections, different avenues, maybe you're sort of reaching some kind of maybe boredom, or maybe you're finding that the current environment is no longer supportive or nurturing as you would have liked, and maybe you're looking at a different direction. So that is also possible. But in general, Rose Quartz Group, I think the main thing that will happen is that things will slow down and maybe be put on hold for a while, even though you are still pursuing your activity and working towards your goals. So I would say maybe manage the expectation of how soon things happen. And also it's a good idea to step back to see how they're happening. That way you can keep moving forward and building towards the right way, no matter what area. So if it's in a relationship, if it's in a group of people, on the job, or other activities that you're after. So even though things are moving forward, I do feel there's a slowing down that's ahead for you, and probably for a good reason. I would also say when it comes to I would say not just the social environment, I was going to say, but really in any area, it might be good to sit down and assess where this is heading. There are several combinations here that support such an idea. This column, the central row, anything that is slower and being put on hold, like here, you need to maybe stop a little bit to assess where this is heading. I think this is a key piece of advice that is coming through this reading. It applies in any context for any situation, and is certainly a wise thing to do. Sometimes I get a message from the cards that says, taking an action is better than not doing anything. I'm not seeing this here, but I am seeing the idea of moving forward, but it is sort of slowing down, to make sure that it's heading in the right direction. So these are my thoughts for you. Rose Quartz Group, it's a pretty, like I said earlier, there are positive energies, but in general it's kind of neutral. It's really about slowing down and just assessing where things are heading. In a relationship, it can be a bit more challenging. It can mean that maybe things are not really going or heading in the direction that you want. Maybe you're scaling back a little bit on the relationship, or pulling back from some expectations and just working more on the friendship side of things. Can this mean that you end a relationship, or you sort of, it's no longer like a love relationship, it becomes more of a friendship? Yes, I have to say that is a possibility. It depends on your question. The cards are not too strong about this, but it's possible. If we dig a bit deeper, for example, in the Knights of the portrait, like the ring to the coffin, which also Knights to the clouds, this can mean challenges in a relationship, and best end it for the time being and maybe just focus more on the friendship. Yes, that is possible, I have to say. And also this cross here. So actually, speaking of the mini crosses or the mini diamonds here, we can focus a little bit on them. I think we've covered off everything, but they might add something interesting. Let's start with the one on the left here. We've got the book in the center. We've got the proposal element, and the left diamond is closer to what has happened earlier in the story, or what will happen first. Like, it's the earlier parts of the story. And this is where I feel that you could have been exploring a prospect. The tree and the diamond around the tree, let me repeat that. The book here can mean the proposal, the prospect, this opportunity that comes through. There's the proposal combinations, there's a rider. The mountain can mean that, it was on hold and then it comes through, or it can mean that it's from a place abroad or maybe farther. But I think this adds detail. The key here is really from the book, and that's that there is an opportunity or a proposal. The tree is like the slower card, so we're seeing here that you're taking your time with it. And the coffin at the bottom, which is an outcome area of any layout, points to the idea that, maybe not so soon. And the garden at the top, which is typically associated with intentions, points to, your network, your social environment, where this is heading, and you're having thoughts about it. So overall, again, I'm seeing that this is about scaling back, slowing down, sort of not rushing into things, assessing where this is heading before you commit to it. Okay, so keep moving forward, but slower, assessing and taking stock of what's going on as you move forward. So let me know how you like these ideas, Rose Quartz Group. Let me know where in your life you think this is figuring, and what you make of it. Do you think it's having a more positive indication for you, or maybe a more challenging one? Where do you feel you need to slow down a little bit to see how it's going to evolve? Let me know. I'm looking forward to your comments as always. And until we meet again, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself. Okay, Serpentine, here we are with the deck. This is my Silhouettes deck, and this is your lovely stone, the Serpentine stone. So we are looking at what will happen. Focus, focus. I am just shuffling the deck a little bit. It is always shuffled between readings, but I like to sort of just reseal the intention, so to speak. So Serpentine, focus on what will happen, if it's just in general or a specific situation, and let's deal out a 3x5 for you. Okay, Serpentine group, this is a lovely set of cards. The first thing that comes to mind is that there's going to be an agreement, a contract, and probably one that involves money and work and finances and all practical areas of your life. Now, the card that really jumped out to me when I was dealing out the 3x5 is the Coffin, because the Coffin really changes or adds a lot of the energies and the indications and suggestions coming through these cards. It is also the last card of the 3x5, you know, at the very bottom right. And the Coffin is obviously a card of endings. It can also be a card of waiting and patience and, you know, a phase where not much is going on. But I think that, again, there can be an ending, and I think the ending idea is the more likely indication, because I see it in a combination with the ring here as corner cards, and I also see it next to the road. The idea of patience might come through the book, where there is a suggestion of having to wait because things are unknown, but also the idea of an ending is pretty salient in the cards. We've got the fish right in the middle of your 3x5. And the fish can very much anchor the theme in terms of work, money, and practical affairs. Money more than anything else, but it might be other assets or opportunities in your life. So when we see the ring, fish, and coffin, there is an ending in terms of a contract or an engagement, and the same might happen with the fish, except in this combination, it can suggest a wait for funds. And in this case, you might want to hang on until the money comes through. But obviously, another way to interpret this triplet is that you could be ending a work project, a work engagement, or something relating to your business, like a phase or a piece of work that you're completing. And I do think it's good for the money. The second set of corner cards is the dog and cross. And I think this dog comes in an important way in your situation here in terms of what will happen, because it seems that something depends on this person. The cross is a bit of a burden card. It also creates obligations and duties. So with this card in this context, it can mean that it's in the hands of this person and not in your hands. So it's like it is pending and depends on this person. They have an important role to play. The cross is also a destiny kind of card. So it does add weight to this person here. Now, the fish in between also adds this element of money and prosperity and things related to work. So a few things can come through here. The dog and fish can mean a customer. They can mean someone who lend money. They can be someone who has money. They have an influence on the financial picture. And with the cross, it may well mean that there's a financial decision or the offer comes from this person and it depends on them. So depending on how you run your work life, Serpentine, if this is a customer in your job or your business, or perhaps it's a friend who brings solutions in terms of money, it's going to depend on your specific circumstance and what is the situation you've decided to focus on for this reading. But I think the financial element depends on this person, and this person plays an important role in the picture. Now, with this said, let's now get into the details of your 3x5 Serpentine. I think a lot more is going to come through. I think in this case, the corner cards sort of box the reading, but I think more comes through from the details. So let's go right ahead. Let's start with the rows. There are the longer lines, and I like to start with them normally. So the ring, ship, and mountain, and the tree and cross. This is a generally positive line. It's more or less neutral. The tree and cross is an interesting combination here, pointing to some important growth, some important steps in your evolution. Now, the ship can point to travel, and this may well be the case with the mountain. And we also have the road in the cards. So it could mean that you are looking to create roots or some kind of connection or some kind of foundation in a different place. If this idea of a move or another, location not really figuring for you, it can mean waiting until things unfold. And again, this idea of the cross is when things are a little bit out of your hands and you have to wait for them to happen. That can also come through. The sense of growth and evolution, I feel, comes through well in this line. And with the cross, there is also a suggestion of a life lesson or, some kind of lesson learned, something to have to keep in mind, for growing. The mountain can slow these things down. And the tree is also a slower kind of card. So perhaps you need to take more time with the steps that you're envisaging, or when you're making a decision about where you grow roots. There is this idea of having to assess things carefully, especially through the tree and cross, and having to really think about, I would say, the longer term. But what is clear, Serpentine group, is that you are moving forward into a journey of growth and evolution, and there is a deeper lesson and a soul kind of element that is happening here for you. So I would say take your time with it and also go deep. And I would also suggest, if you need to get away a little bit to sort of gain good perspective, then that might just be welcome, Serpentine group, from these three central cards. I think the relationship element comes through. I'm attracted to looking at the corner cards in this way with the ring and cross. I feel this is an important relationship because it also corner combined with the dog here. So again, we're seeing these at the corners, important relationship, but hey, coffin as well in the picture. Does that lead to an ending or a change? Let's keep on reading. We have the key, flowers, fish, road, and letter. And this is where I'm seeing a really positive opportunity. The key and flowers are two very bright cards. And the fish is generally bright, but it's also better when it has positive cards with it because it tells us that the financial element is strong as opposed to challenging. And the letter and road is definitely a path and an opportunity and probably an invitation to pursue perhaps a new goal, a new project, or even a new job or a new venture, depending on what you do in your life, Serpentine. So this is a very positive line. There is news down the line, and it's probably in a very positive sense for you, and it may bring a lot of prosperity, a sense of well-being, and a sense of abundance. The flowers is great for gratitude, so I would say, Serpentine, with the good things coming in your life, it doesn't hurt ever to take a few minutes to be thankful, for what is coming into play for you. Now, in the bottom row, we have the dog. This is the relationship line. And we've got the tower, bear, book, and coffin. This is interesting. The tower and bear can certainly point to someone in a position of power. And the book and coffin can mean that they leave or that they haven't revealed yet that they're leaving specifically because of the book. The book is closed, and with the coffin, I'm really seeing a sense of closure. So this is like an ending that comes through. And I know earlier I said there can be a sense of mystery here, but reading it in the context of these three cards, it can also mean an ending and also a closure kind of thing. You might have to wait until this comes through or the ending comes through. And again, it can be dependent on this person. And I would say otherwise the line is generally neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a process, an event of things ending and possibly having to wait for this to come through. Now, depending on your specific context, and people elements can take on a lot of different nuances for different readees. Maybe you are waiting for someone to come back. Maybe you're waiting for this person to make a revelation or to communicate the idea or the news. Maybe you are moving on from an involvement, and it can be the job here because the tower and bear can refer to management and a corporation and a company. Maybe it's time to make this major change and major ending. And I say it's major because we have the cross in your cards. So what's happening here is a deeper evolution and a process of unfolding. So this line is more or less neutral. I would say also, Serpentine, when we see such cards, it doesn't hurt to keep in mind the chain of command, to keep in mind the people in authority, and also possibly to tap into your connections and people of influence who might be able to have a say in your path, in this opportunity, or what you're pursuing right now. Another way I can read this card is growth. So the dog is a junior card and the bear is a senior card. And with the tower, we also have that sense of elevation and growth and influence and authority. Now, the book is a card of knowledge, and the coffin can mean patience again. So it might be a matter of time, Serpentine, before you can grow up to the next level. But I have to say, because of the coffin with the book, it's possible that you're not ready just yet. Maybe this is what needs to be done over the next phase. Maybe you're putting in some groundwork in order to have whatever it is for you, the skills, the knowledge, maybe the network, the connection, a certain thing that you need to achieve in order to rise up to the next level. So I am seeing a sense of growth, and this diagonal sort of jumps out to me as well. The tower, fish, and tree has to do with financial growth and long-term investments. And maybe this is how you're gaining empowerment. The fish and bear is a combination of wealth, and we also have the key earlier in this diagonal here. So the key is really positive for success, especially over the long term. And the letter is news that grows into something positive with the tree. So I am seeing lots of indications for growth and empowerment. But the thing about this energy here, Serpentine, is that it seems to take a bit more time for you. There needs to be some groundwork done. It's an inner journey as well. It's not just what's happening with your money and your finances and your job and business and all of that. There's like an inner transformation happening in tandem. Okay, we will go back to the diagonals, but let's first look at the columns because they also bring a lot of interesting and important details. The ring, key, and dog is pretty clear to me. This is an important relationship and someone who brings solutions. So again, definitely tap into your network, your supportive network, because they can support you with this growth. The ship, flowers, and tower is a wonderful combination for results and reaping what you've sown. We're seeing here some very positive outcomes to your effort and your work, Serpentine group. So keep doing what you know is right because it is absolutely paying off. The mountain, fish, and bear is strong for money. Like I said, the fish and bear is a combination of wealth. With the mountain, it can add to this idea because the bear and mountain have elements in common, but the mountain might also refer to this idea of a place abroad or some kind of foreign investments maybe, or money that you have elsewhere. I can add and suggest that the bear can refer to parents and you're back home. And in this case, it might refer to your family, your roots, that place where you're from, where you're originally from. And here there can be family money, inheritance money, especially since we have the tower and tree. So it can be about managing the money and figuring out these affairs. In this sense, and I think all the senses, the 3x5, your 3x5 Serpentine is a very positive spread. It's just a bit slower in terms of energy. The tree, road, and book can mean that you're going down a path with some unknown factors, especially since we have the book at the bottom. This is the same as to the right. It's like the outcome or the later parts. So you're going down a path that perhaps you don't have all of the details, Serpentine, and so it's important really to figure things out as you go, but also having faith in the evolution and the process. I'm not seeing anything being rushed. I think you can take your time with this. Again, there is a generally slower and more peaceful energy to your 3x5 Serpentine. And finally, we have the cross, letter, and coffin, and this is a pretty powerful a triplet, mainly because of the coffin, but it is that idea of an ending. I feel with the cross and letter, you could be making an announcement of something having to end, or perhaps the news comes of an ending and a closure. And I think that this is a moving on piece because the cross and coffin is sometimes associated with people passing on and things like that, but I really don't think this is the situation here. Instead, the energy that I'm getting from it is, it's like you have to let go, because the cross has that burden, obligation, duty kind of element to it. So it's like you have to deal with this, you have to accept the ending, and you also might have to wait for the news to come through. Again, there are some aspects of this that are out of your hands. So overall, Serpentine Group, before we add more details through a few diagonals here and there, what is ahead for you is financial success. And I know that the way the cards are and the energy don't have that kind of bam, indication. Sometimes the reading is like, oh, whoa, it's such a good thing. It's such a big deal. It's not the case in this 3x5, but the idea and the interpretation of financial success is really clear in the cards. Even though it's slower, even though it doesn't have that bang and bam kind of energy, it's still a successful outcome for you. It's just that it unfolds a bit more gently, a bit more slowly. And I think the reason for that is because this success and this prosperity and growth is accompanied by, first, there is the other person element, another person who has some weight in your financial success and this prosperity prospect for you. And second, there is an inner journey that accompanies this unfolding. So it's a bit calmer, it's a bit deeper, and it has really peaceful energies to it. So it's like you're patient, but you also feel in touch with your path, and you know that it's heading in the right direction. Some things are going to be out of your hands. You have to wait until the news comes through, until this person makes a decision, until the unfolding can start. But in the process, you know that you are attracting this prosperity. You are looking at opportunities and embracing them and moving forward in certain directions. And you could be making some decisions around your money, your investments, and other involvements that are on your plate. I would also add, Serpentine, that you might want to prepare for some kind of ending. There is a phase that is ending and a new one that is beginning. You're going down a path and there is closure. And this aspect of the reading is a bit mysterious, I have to say. It's like the details are still being worked out. So focus on attracting this prosperity, on being grateful and appreciative of the things that are coming your way, the things that you have, and go down that path. Be willing to grow and embrace maybe a bigger, a more empowered you, a wealthier you, a more engaged you. All of these are possible for you. And when it comes to this other person, be patient, respect their input, respect the chain of command if it applies. And be patient for their input to come through. Like we saw, they are surrounded by positive cards, and I think they've got your back and they have a positive influence on you. It's just that you can't really rush them. I'm not so sure this is even frustrating. I think you're good with that. You're just being patient and moving forward. So we've read this first set of diagonals. We can look at the other one as well. It goes in the opposite direction. We've got the key ship into the fish, book, and letter. So the book and letter next to each other are also a pretty powerful pair here, suggesting some very important news that comes through pretty soon. Although I have to say that the coffin and road and cross, and tree, they sort of offset that a little bit. They might dampen how soon it comes. But still, the key, ship, and fish is very powerful for money, income, projects, business, work. So I definitely think that you're in for a wonderful opportunity when it comes to money and prosperity. And we can read a couple more big diagonals. We've got the ring, flowers, bear, into the road and cross. So this is great for forward movement. You're going to have to make some important decision, Serpentine. This is quite a helpful additional insight. The road and cross is the combination of crossroads. So that's when you're at the fork at the road and you have to make a decision. But the ring, flowers, and bear is lovely for growth and opportunity. It is great for empowerment and success. So I think, Serpentine, you are good to embrace the path that you know is meant for you. you want to also give yourself some opportunities and some elbow room to express yourself, to explore, to, put out some creativity out there. And in terms of relationships, I really think this is someone supportive. The bear is like mama bear, someone strong, someone who has your back. And with a positive card like the flowers and no negative cards, no challenges coming in the bear's way, this is a really supportive connection. And, friendship possibly, or, someone else, this person who has a weight on the situation. Dog, flowers, mountain, road, and coffin. This is the stronger indication of an ending. We have the coffin on the other side of the road, which means the end of the road. And the mountain can also add to that. But I have to say that the flowers is a card of return. So it's interesting that there is this contrast here. It's possible that either you move on from a certain situation and you bring it to a close, and that is actually a positive development for you and friends support you in this, or perhaps someone who had been away comes back into the picture. And I have to say this works pretty well with the rest of the indications that we saw, specifically the idea that you're waiting on someone to respond, to follow up, to give you that support. And so this is where we saw that the coffin is, it's kind of interesting how it operates in this 3x5. It causes you to have to be a bit patient, and I don't think this is frustrating to you. I think you're okay with that, and you're also willing to allow it to unfold. And in parallel, there could be a closure of something into a new path. So these are some pretty positive indications for you. Last few thoughts, Serpentine group that we can look at are those three, the three portraits that are complete in the 3x5. We have the portrait around the flowers, we have the portrait around the fish and the road. So when we look at this inner line that is made up of the three central cards, of the three complete portraits in your 3x5, we are looking at some very, very positive messages for your money and success and prosperity. I am very convinced that you're in for seeing the results that you're after, that you're in for more money, that you're in for more success. In the very least, you could be moving forward on a path that results in this kind of success. So anyway, we look at these cards, Serpentine group, I think they are very optimistic and very bright, even though they're kind of slower and they have different levels and layers between people, inner journey, some decisions and things like that. But it's happening, okay? So if it doesn't appear like it's happening, I want you to see the forest for the trees. And I want you to realize that it is unfolding. And so be appreciative of that. So see if you can sort of step back a little bit, like we suggested in the top row, and observe that actually your path is unfolding, that you are attracting prosperity, and that things are working out. Even if it's a bit slower, even if it's a little bit out of your hands at some points, it is fine, it is happening. So be willing to embrace this positive change and this wonderful journey ahead. Be patient, it is going to come through, and keep growing and connecting with this path, this creativity, and this prosperity that you're attracting. So I think some pretty cards for you, Serpentine. I certainly look forward to your feedback and your thoughts about this. Very best of luck with it. And until we meet again, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself.